Hey, yo, what's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Grid Culture. Please like, share, subscribe. Let's get into it. So today we got Lebron James, and this isn't something new. It's something that's been going on probably for the past week or so. And it was LeBron James due to, the whole Ma'Khia Bryant situation. If you want to know my thoughts and how I viewed that whole thing, go to my videos. Go through the history and go through my videos, probably a couple back, and you'll see how I viewed it and, whether the cop was justified or not. But nonetheless, it received a lot of backlash. It received a lot of outrage and a lot of opinions on it. And one of the main opinions, that being LeBron James, one that had a spotlight on it. LeBron being the superstar that he is, one of the biggest icons in the world. He had input on the situation. He posted a Twitter, not on Twitter, but on Instagram, one of those damn sites, and basically posted the cop that committed the shooting and put "you're next" on it. That's it. It was a screenshot or a photo of the cop standing there at the scene, and he put "you're next," and that's drawn a lot of ire of conservative and Republican platforms. And we talking about it just nonstop in the weeks, ever since it's happened. I can't even remember. It feel like it's been a couple weeks. It could have been just last week when this happened. Was it? I can't even remember. Time flies so fast. So many different stories flying. I think it's been about a couple weeks now. But it's been nonstop. To this day. You having, police officers, giving their input and, clapping back at LeBron. Everybody has something to say about it. And one of the main angles and how it's been viewed is as if LeBron is threatening the officer, right? He says "you're next," and this is coming right after the verdict to the George Floyd situation, to the George Floyd trial, Derek Chauvin. So there's even more context to understand what LeBron's saying. Now, after all of this happened, LeBron deleted the post. He deleted the post and he put out a statement. Now, didn't seem like he stood as firm, on his original post, but he did believe that, it seems that, he's not cool, as most people were, not cool with the shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant. Now, all this talk about, is threatening and LeBron should be kicked out of the league, and you've seen some people talking about he should be put in jail and he's doxing. It's overboard. It's overboard from the conservative and Republican Party, but they're using it as an angle. This is their clapback. They're trying the same methods that, say, the Democrats were using, but it just falls flat. All of it looks foolish. It looks foolish when the Democrats do this shit and try to cancel culture shit, and it looks foolish when y'all do it too. And on top of that, it's not accurate. Just like when I talked about just like when I talked about what's her name, Maxine Waters, and her comments out there in the streets, and basically how it was hypocritical of her, basically, especially based off what she was, her protest against Trump, and about his rhetoric and everything he was saying before the election, and then she comes and says something like this, especially being a public official. It's hypocritical. Now, can you flat out, the same way I gave Trump or anybody else the benefit of the doubt when you're talking about free speech? And there's more responsibility, especially when you're on the job. There's no free speech on the job, right? And so there's a lot to be expected out of people like Trump and Congresswoman Waters. But you can't sit up there when you're doing a honest analysis on everything. You can't honestly sit there and say and just flat out interpret that it's saying violence. Even when you're saying confrontational. I mean, you can be confrontational when you're talking about what Maxine Waters said. You can be confrontational in your words. So it can be taken any other way, but you can't make a clear, absolute assertion on something like that. And that's the same thing we're getting here with Lebron, especially when you take into the context and the timing. You're talking about after the Derek Chauvin trial, and after that, LeBron's saying this within the context that this officer's next. He didn't say nothing about, harming him or, killing him or anything like that, beating his ass, nothing like that. So, y'all got to stop with this shit. But, it's just petty mudslinging. Petty mudslinging from, the Democrat and Republican, and namely the Democrat and Republican followers. They gonna do what they do because they got an agenda that they're trying to accomplish, but it's the people buying into this shit. And it's not helping any at all. Not helping anything. It's childish. LeBron has the right to his free speech. And even if you had a problem with him saying that and he believes that the person should be arrested, so what? What you should have an issue with is if your system just simply responds to that. Is your system responding to the mob outcries? That's it. The mob's gonna say whatever they want to say. The mob as in majority. Whether it's majority or not even a majority, but just a high concentrated volume of people saying the same thing, and the voices is being heard. Your job is to make sure the system is doing what it's supposed to do, and understand why certain things are put in place. And a lot of times the system's not just a lot of times, more times than not, the system's not doing what they're supposed to do. But, who's there to audit that? Most people aren't. Because most people don't have an understanding of what the system is. It's just what they're told, what they're told in, their media, their different forms of media, and that's how they soak it in. So they wouldn't even know what to look for, how to combat certain things, what things are supposed to look like. But, it's crazy because, the same thing happened. You had Kaepernick exercising his freedom of speech. Look at that. Look at that. But we're supposed to be constitutional. We're supposed to be constitutional people. You know, they claim to be the party that wants to fight for everybody's rights. That's the Republican Party. Which, you know, when you actually examine them, like I said, they ain't nothing about that. But you want to crucify a man for that. You know, the freedom of speech goes out the window once you directly threaten a person, right? Once you start, you know, threatening, you know, physical threats and different things like that, you know, it goes out the window. Because now a person has the right to defend themselves. They have the right to defend themselves, but giving your take and what you think, you know, especially through a judicial process or just having a voice on what you think is wrong, whether what you're saying is the truth or you know, you're misrepresented, that's what freedom of speech is about. To keep contradicting ourselves. But, you know, when somebody, you know, one of your guys, you know, got guys like, you know, Steven Crowder, one of those dumbasses, you know, they go on and say some silly shit. And then we want to bring it, you know, up. You know, all those antics he does on his show. Just look up Steven Crowder if you don't know nothing about it. But all that silly shit he does on his show. The shock value. Some of it may have an angle to it, but you know, sometimes it's about the way you do certain things. But everybody has a right to, they're entitled to their speech, and LeBron wasn't threatening nobody. So he gets to speak his piece. And you got to respect it. Your job is to counter the facts. You know, bring the facts up. You know, spark a debate or anything, you know, something to that extent. Educate each other. But all this calling for his job, calling for his livelihood to be affected and jail time and all this silly shit, it's childish. It's just childish, but that's the way this country, that's the way everybody's being brought to be, man. Bunch of crybabies, a bunch of, you know, victims. Everybody's just the victim Olympics. So, let LeBron do him. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section, and I will holler at y'all later.